Right, so we're in the middle of winter and I wanted to give you an update on the garden, and I've taken over more of the normal garden and created a new veggie patch, and I'll go through all of that with you just now. But effectively this wall along here where we planted all the fruit trees doesn't provide much function in terms of space and that, and I figured I would turn this into, it's probably about 6 feet by, well, it's about 3 meters by about 25 meters long, and it's got the fruit trees in the middle. So I figured what I would do in the middle is I would actually for spring prepare this for the Three Sisters planting, where I do the corn, the runner beans, and then some squash. And that's a methodology that I learnt about on YouTube, and I'm very keen to try that because it's a really effective use of space. And instead of using my other vegetable patches for squash, which take up so much space, this bed is going to be perfect because it gets a lot of sun during summer. So it gets direct sunlight from that line, in the line of the actual fence, where in the morning it comes up over there and goes straight over us, and so we get a lot of sun during summer in this area, which I think will be perfect. Now, just having a look at this bed over here, this was the second vegetable bed that we put in. And you can see that my grapes have taken a bit of strain, so we're actually going to move them from here. The grenadilla has gone berserk. As you can see here, we've got some beautiful grenadillas, and it still keep flowering even though we're in the middle of winter. There's some more over there. So we just keep getting grenadillas off this tree, and it was a small bush that I planted over there, and it has now gone all along this fence. So we're just going to let it carry on and actually over this particular trellis. This is my gooseberry plant, and as you can see there's a lot of fruit, and I'm just waiting for it all to ripen. Now it is quite a big plant, so I'm going to in summer string it up a bit so that it forms a bit of a trellis and it doesn't take over the floor like it's done over here. We've just planted beetroot over here, and this is the last of our cauliflower which we've harvested. Just waiting for that last one to come in, and then I will prep this bed for spring. Now here's all our asparagus, which we've cut down now, and we're going to cut a bit shorter, and then in spring hopefully we'll get some more. This bed, yeah, has got the beetroot in. Now this is the garlic that I planted in autumn. Obviously for us being in the southern hemisphere, autumn is sort of March, April, and you can see it's doing really, really nicely. Some areas are doing better than others, and it's been mulched. I've also planted the odd cauliflowers over here. Because we have a mild winter, we can actually grow quite a bit of stuff over the winter period. And then these are all broccolis, and then over here you can see all my onions that I planted, and they'll take about 8 months to mature. But if you plant them in autumn, that's pretty cool because they've got a long time to grow. Now this is the original veggie bed that I started off with. Well, actually not the original. The first one was a simple raised bed at the other side of the garden. But this is now the veg bed that it doesn't get as much sun as that other one does over there. So we have to plant sort of more cooler crops, cooler weather crops, things like kale and stuff like that. This is another patch of garlic, as you can see. Excuse the traffic. This is another patch of garlic. As you can see, it's not doing quite as well as the one in the front bed because it gets less sun. So the goal is, since I don't have to plant my squashes here next spring, I'm going to turn this into more for the lettuces and the herbs, which can survive a lot of shade. And then this bed will also be redone with some more kales and cabbages and things like that. So looking a bit bare at the moment, but we've just prepped those 2 beds for spring, and we'll wait and see what happens there. Now with the composting, what we've done is I asked Richard to build me this big box, and this was the first one which we started in spring last year and filled it up, and then it got really full, so we built a second one. And what we've done is obviously moved everything that was in there into this one, and you can see that the quality of the compost is actually looking pretty good. If I go down a bit, I mean, that's looking really good, and the quality is like that throughout this entire box. So we're going to have tons of compost for the new year, which I'm very excited about. And we do the slow compost method. We don't really turn it much because, well, I think some people call it the lazy man's compost, where you literally just toss everything in and leave it for 6 months. And we mix it up with the bedding from the chicken run, the dry leaves, we throw in the green leaves and things like that, and then whatever waste comes out of my kitchen, if it doesn't go to the chickens, it will come here. Now this is the original bed where we had trees in, and we put a lot of mulch and straw and compost in, and it has turned into an absolutely amazing bed in terms of nutrition. So at the moment we've got the tail end of our potatoes that I'm just letting finish off here. When they sort of go a bit pale and brown, I will actually harvest them, but for now they're doing fine. And we've planted onions, another set of onions in here, but again I think it was probably not a great idea because they've been covered by the mulch. We'll see in spring whether it survives. But if that doesn't work, then what I'm going to do in spring is I'm going to then plant more sweet potatoes and let this whole bed just be sweet potatoes and potatoes, because it's just so prolific in terms of producing those potatoes. And you don't really need to take care of them much. You just mulch it, throw a bit of compost on, and you just keep on harvesting. And you'll see over here, I mean, these potatoes are actually ready to be harvested. As you can see there, I've got a couple of really nice little small purple potatoes, and I'll keep these for seeds because these purple potatoes are really, really nice. I've got my coriander and parsley growing in here. Because we have such hot summers, it's very difficult for me to grow coriander. So I moved it into a little pot down here which doesn't get a lot of sun, and that enables me to keep growing some coriander, hopefully. Over here I've got some more radishes. So a lot of my winter plants are now growing. I planted a second round of radishes. This bed I've just planted this morning with a whole lot of lettuces, different types of lettuces. And this bed over here is sort of just being cleared out, and I'm going to be using it for more lettuces and that. So you'll see I've got a couple of leafy greens. I'm taking some strain from bugs and that. But since I give most of this to the chickens, this Chinese cabbage, I'm not too phased about it. Now my winter crops are doing well. I did plant them a little bit too late, so they're quite small. And this is kohlrabi, which I'm very excited about. This is a new thing that I discovered on YouTube. And I went to buy one and actually tasted it, and it is delicious, either raw or cooked. So you'll see here, I've got some red Russian kale. I've got the dino ears, and then I've got curly kale, and then these over here are just broccolis. So I've kind of done a multi-sowing all over the place just to take advantage of some of the beds and see how they turned out. And here you'll see all my snow peas which are coming up, which are looking really good, and they're going to be very tasty. You can even see a few over there. And then I've interplanted them with leeks. Now again, my leeks were planted a little late, but because leeks take a while, I'll just let them grow in there, and by the time the peas are finished there'll be plenty of space. With this bed I interplanted radishes and carrots. I got the idea of a YouTube channel, and I'll actually share that one with you. But she suggested, you know, you interplant with carrots and radishes. The radishes grow quickly, which gives you plenty of space for the carrots to grow down. A lot of the carrots didn't germinate. So what I might do in early spring, when it's still cool enough for the radishes, I'll just redo a planting of both of them. And then over here I've got some volunteer tomatoes coming up, and that shows you what kind of mild winters we have. But these tomatoes just keep on coming up. This is another set of peas, and then these are amazing to grow. But these are turnips that you can see over there. Lovely purple top turnips. And they take about 30 to 60 days to grow. And then what I will do is take them out, give the leaves to the chickens, and then either freeze these or use them to make vegetable stock. Now I've just got some small onions growing, which are actually ready to be harvested, but I'm just taking them out as I need them. And then this is spinach brights and perpetual spinach that I'm just growing here as a second growing for winter. And then even my strawberries, although they're looking a bit fillip in terms of the whole bed, are actually still producing flowers and some fruit. Now this is a basil that I have left in the garden, and it grows very quickly, so every spring I'll just cut it down. But the reason why I keep it is because during winter it's an excellent source of food for bees. So at least, if you can see that little bee hovering there, at least it's a good source of food for the bees, and I know they're getting something. Up here I've got my artichokes growing, and there's another one over there. I planted some more beetroot. So I do sort of random plantings of beetroot because that's one of my favorite vegetables, in different pots or different sections of the garden every 4 weeks or so. And that's my new garden office space, so that allows me to germinate my seeds under the shade, have my seed boxes and the chicken food over there, and basically it just allows me to stand in the shade while I'm working, particularly during a very hot summer. And then of course here are all my babies, all looking at me most intently, thinking they're getting treats, but they've already had treats. So we had 4 babies in December, and of the 4, 3 were roosters. So unfortunately I had to give the roosters away, and we're only left with the 1 baby, which I'll show you now. Is that little one over there on this log. But otherwise they're very content and happy in here, and he's a quiet rooster, so he's lovely. And they've got their water and their food, so I change the water every day, and then the food I replace once a week because they eat quite a bit. Yeah, and then this is the deep bedding that I'm using. So there's absolutely no smell at all in this chicken run, because it's using a mixture of wood shavings and then any leftover sort of leaves in it that I give them, and it all just composts in. So I haven't changed this once yet in the year that I've had them. In spring what I'll do this year is I will clean it out, put this all into the compost bin, and then put some more wood shavings in. So it's a very effective way of keeping chickens, particularly in an urban area, that you don't have any smell. Let's see if we've got some eggs. And there we have 2 eggs. Okay, and then that over there is the seedling table where I'll put the seed trays on once the seeds have germinated, and then they get a decent amount of sun. And then if it gets too hot, then I will just move them back under the shade. But that's in a nutshell the back garden. If you look back at some of the previous videos, and I'll see if I can find a photo of it, this was completely empty. And now it's a zoo. It's a forest, and I'm very pleased with it. It's come out very nicely. Here I've got some broad beans that are growing, but the problem I'm facing, and you'll see that over here, is that some of these plants are being attacked by some bugs. Let me see if I can get you a decent picture. Okay, so these little black mites that I need to get rid of, and I would use a combination of neem oil and Epsom salts on that and see how that does. And then I tested out, because I had some spare pots, I just put a whole lot of broccolis and kohlrabis in here. You can see the grubs have been helping themselves, but that's fine. I'll just peel them off and cut them off when we eat them. And there's some baby broccoli coming up. So this is very exciting. I'm very pleased with the way the garden has gone, considering that I only started this 3 years ago, and I've learned a lot along the way in terms of what I will grow and what I won't grow. Okay, so that's the garden in a nutshell for winter. Not bad considering it is winter. I've learned quite a few lessons over the past year, and again going forward I'll probably make some more mistakes, but that's the whole purpose of this exercise, is to find out what I like, what I'm prepared to eat, what my kids are prepared to eat more likely. And I've got very good at preserving food in terms of freezing. The next thing I'd obviously like to get into is proper pressure canning, but having a look at the price of pressure canners from the US, it's just ridiculous, and you can't find them in South Africa. And again, space is an issue. So I think that's probably a project that's going to have to wait for another year, but it is something that I'd like to get into, is proper pressure canning, or alternatively buying myself one of those Harvest freeze dryers, which is just amazing. But of course those prices are just ridiculous. So thank you for joining me, and I'll hopefully be posting more videos as we go along.